Hello and welcome to this Fix My File. Today we're going to be looking at Excel, and this time we're going to look at formulas. So you can see we've got a table in front of us here, and on the surface of it things look okay. Certainly the format seems okay, and that's something we worked on a different Fix My File. But actually when you start looking into the data of this file, we will see that there are problems with the formulas, and so I want us to go through that today and see how I personally would go about correcting this. And this is something I find all the time in my consultancy business, where people have been using the files, they're used to them, they've changed formulas over time, other people are maybe in the file, they've changed things as well. And what you end up is with a document that's just not consistent. The problem with that is it's not telling the same consistent story, and potentially there's formula errors, which are going to absolutely skew any future analysis you do. So this is part of actually doing a data cleanse and just double checking that everything that's in here is correct and it's formatted in the right way so that we can then go on and do the rest of our future analysis. Now over here in column M, I have actually got some things for us to look at today. So I am just going to bring that over so we can check them together. So the first thing I want to have a look at is different formulas are being used in the same column. Now this sets alarm bells ringing straight away. It's an inconsistent approach and it actually means your calculations are wrong. So if we look at this budget versus actuals, if we double click on it, we can see it's taken the budget and it's divided it by the actuals, which is the right way because it's budget versus actuals, not actuals versus budget. Okay, so if we then go down and have a look, we've got G divided by H, H divided by G. So now it's been changed, the format's been changed, and then we go down and it's H to G, G to H. So it looks like someone's confused over which way round this analysis should be going. Now, as I said at the beginning, we are looking at budget versus actuals. Therefore, the budget has to come first and the actuals have to come second. So what I'm going to do here is copy it and I'm just going to paste it all the way down and I'm going to paste it as a formula. So now we know that we have got that consistent application. Every single row, including the total row at the bottom, is now consistently applied. So that's the first fix. The next thing that we've got is that we've got error formulas. And we've got this one here and here and here. And actually use lots of different types of error formulas. They can say value, they can say NA, they can say ERR. But what it basically says is something's not right with this formula. It cannot calculate. It's returning an error. And on this occasion, it's correct that it's an error because Excel thinks 0 divided by 0 is an error. And something divided by 0 is an error. And so in that case, the calculation is correct. However, if you're sending this document to somebody else, it's going to ring alarm bells with them too. And they are going to start questioning, is that right? It's going to draw their attention. It doesn't look very professional. This is a very small table. But if I had hundreds of rows and dozens of columns, I certainly wouldn't want error formulas everywhere. So what we're going to do is a really, really simple wraparound formula that is going to mean that the error formulas disappear. So at the top here where we've got our formula, what I'm going to do is just wrap it in an if error formula. Now you can do if NA, so on and so forth, but if error uses all of the different error types that you get. So it is just a little bit more robust. We then say, do the formula. And if it's an error, what do you want me to do? Do we want it to be blank? Do we want it to say 0? In this case, I want it to say 0%. And I close my bracket. And here we go. So let's see what happens. We now copy that. We bring that down. We paste it as a formula. There we go. So now there's 0%. So 0% is correct. But it's just less alarming than having errors. And that if error formula works on just about everything in Excel. So I wrap most of my formulas up in that just to future-proof them and keep the document tidy going forward. The next fix we're going to look at is that hard-coded numbers have been used instead of formulas. Now, this is really, really dangerous because it doesn't reflect what you've actually got in your table. And so these can happen for a number of reasons, that somebody's typed something in, maybe they did it by error. It looks as if it's correct, but it isn't. And on this occasion, it's down here. These are totals, as the category here says. And so they should be totaling all of this column. But instead, somebody has just hard-coded in 2.5 million here, which is obviously incorrect. We need it to still be the formula. So I am just going to copy that and I'm going to paste it into here so that we've got the right outcome. Now, obviously, hard-coded numbers are absolutely lethal in Excel. You would never want a number hard-coded unless, of course, it is your raw data that you've imported, like these two columns. Next, I want to have a look at the analysis columns are inconsistently applied. And what I mean by this is that we've got a column here that looks at June budget versus actuals, but we haven't got one for July. So that's a bit strange. Maybe at this point, I only needed to look at June. My analysis was only about June, but really for consistency purposes, you would want them to be the same. So what I'm going to do here is copy this and I'm going to paste it into here. Now, if I check my formula, we didn't have dollar signs on. So these are not fixed. They've now moved. So it's correctly looking at July budget divided by the actuals. The formula I'm looking for is budget first and then actual. So I'm happy that these are correct. Now, we'd corrected this formula, so this one's come through properly. So the only changes I would really want to make to this is just to tidy up the formatting a little bit. My border is bold here and thin here. So I would want to just change that over. And there we go. That looks much neater and much more tidy. Okay, so now we've got the problem that some of the formulas do not have fixed ranges. And what we mean by that is that they have been controlled using dollar signs. So the danger with that is that the cells continue to change. The range will alter depending on if the column is and the cell is pulled down or pulled to the right for columns. So that's really, really dangerous because you can think it's telling you one thing, but actually it's telling you something completely different. So let's have a look at that. Is it a problem that on this one, we haven't got dollar signs? No, it isn't, because I want to drag it down, but that's fine because I want both of these cells to change every time. And I'm not going to drag it to the right. So that's absolutely fine. That's no problem here. But if we come down here and look at these, what we can see is we've got a sum if. And essentially we're saying sum the total of the budget if it equals California in column B. So that's a really helpful little formula. However, these are not protected with the dollar signs. So when someone has written that formula, they've then dragged it down. And what's happened is the rows have come down. So now we're excluding row 3. And if we have a look at the next one, it's now slipped again. And my suspicion is it's going to continue to slip. So now we've really got problems because it's actually going to pull in these totals as well. So this can all be corrected just by using dollars. So let's go in and do that. So in this range, at this point, do I want to control the B? That's the column. Well, for this, I don't want to because I'm only pulling it down. So I actually only need to control the rows. So let me just go $ before the row numbers. B27. Now that's this one. And I want that to continue to scroll down because I don't want all of the totals to be California. So I'm not going to control that one, but I am going to control these. Okay. And now when I drag that down, we can now see that the totals have remained consistent. Okay, it's still looking at the right range. Everything's formatted properly. Now, If I wanted to drag this to the right and say this summary table is really helpful, but at the moment I've only got June 25 budget. And actually I'd like to have the June actuals as well. If I drag it to the right, straight away we can tell something's gone wrong. So where's it looking? Okay, so what's happened is because we didn't have a dollar before the B, B has now become C. B down here has now become C. And H has scrolled. Well, we wanted H to scroll because this time we wanted to look at the actuals, but these weren't right. So let's go back and let's put our dollar signs in here. So we're always going to want it to look at column B. And we're always going to want it to look on column B here. Now, column G might change, so we're not going to change that one. And now if I drag this down and I drag it all the way across, we've got numbers in there. And now if I look at this one, we can see we've got the proper range. It's looking at the proper cell here. And also it's now moved across to have a look at the actuals. So we could, if we wanted to, copy that and do the same thing here. And so now it's going to tell us the July budget and the July actuals as well. So really little powerful tip there, using the dollars. I do this as part of my future proofing. So for here, for example, even if I didn't need to, I am now in the habit, because it's a very good Excel habit, to actually put the dollars in if I want them to, because then next month when I come and I do some analysis, they're already there. If my boss phones me and says, could you very quickly do this? I've already got the structure in place to be able to format that and make those changes really quickly. So a little tip for you there. One of the other things that we've got is these calculation answers, are coming through as general. So they're quite hard to read. They're centralized for a start, which can be hard to see which are millions, which are tens and thousands. Now they have all got decimal places, but as you can see, this row has got 3 or 4 decimal places. And of course, we don't know what currency it is. So these are pounds. We know that these are pounds too. So the easiest thing to do is to switch that to the same format as above. It automatically lines them up. So now it's really easy for me to see where I've got millions and hundreds of thousands. Everything's got 2 decimal places. So that's exactly as we would want it to be in a professional document. The final tip I want to look at here is the fact that the date formula is not correct. It's not in a date format. The problem with this is that calculations won't work. So in Excel thinks a date is a number. It doesn't actually recognize it as a date. So the fact that somebody's typed these in as dates and they're coming up as general, if I then tried to do what's the largest date, what's the oldest date, how many days are there between this date and this date, none of those formulas would work. So we really need to correct that and put these back to being dates. So I'm going to highlight the range and I'm going to go general. And here we've got a short date, so I could just select that. Or if I wanted a slightly different format, I could come to here and I could have a look at various different options that are available to me, and I could pick one from there. So now we know that these are all formatted properly as dates. I hope you found that helpful, and I hope you agree that at the end now we feel much more secure about the data that we're presenting and the formulas that have been contained within this document. We do actually have some other Fix My File in this series. We've got another Excel one that looks at formatting, and we've got one for Word and one for PowerPoint. So please do jump over to those and have a look if that's helpful to you. Thanks very much.